Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me voice. Today, I will talk about factors that increase volatile acid production based on work of Gawel University and Tatri University. The work is based on Galway University. Its leader is Ph.D. and from Tatri University, leader is Zainer Chetashong. The title of work is Influence of pH, heat treatment of inoculum and selenium, oxyanions on concomitant selenium biomediation and volatile fatty acids reduction from food waste. The work show how they try to check several methods to enhance volatile acid by fermentation, which is conventional and competitive to now industrially available petrochemical-based volatile fatty acid, which contains often much of petroleum waste, which are cancerogenic and which are not in case of fermentation production. This study hypothesized to improve volatile fatty acid from food waste. The three methods are pH adjustment to 5 to N or 10, supplementation with selenium, and heat treatment of inoculum. This is made for checking how it's improved. The work is considering the work of and 8 to 10%. And thus is a methane production goes as a product of anaerobic digestion, which is add volatile acid are lack. So we here similarly to that fermentation, we stopped mostly of acetogenicity, and here to stop this is required also some heat shock. Similarly, often not so high, only less pH and 85 Celsius, not 100. This difference shows that is enough to kill methanogenesis, but and sustain not suitable to not produce hydrogen, just blocking and the process we need to remember that methane takes this volatile fatty acid, so in optimization, we are unlikely to promote methane fermentation. So it would be methane and hydrogen as side products, but mostly we want butyric, propionic hexanoic, or lactic acid. The selenium wastewater are of huge environmental concern due to acute and chronic toxicity. So, anaerobic treatment offers this selenium-laden wastewater offer possibility to recover volatile fatty acid as well as convert soluble selenium oxyanions to insoluble and less toxic elemental selenium. So in this case, method can be fine for remediation of remediation of wastewater, especially is fire is which are after catastrophes and very fine method. Therefore, we need to check that inoculum was taken from KTH nearby fast wastewater facility in Hammarby, Sist-Vaket, Stockholm, Sweden, and the sodium cyanide and sodium cyanide salts were dissolved. Experimental setup was used as the substrate of pH between substrate effect of pH, heat treatment of inoculum, and addition of selenium removal. Selenium adding. The batch assay were conducted in 150 milliliters working in 120 liters per meter, 35 Celsius temperature mesophilic. So here we have as biometal metal potential and metal potential from where is made. So in batch case, here we have volatile fatty acid metal potential. And this is showing that the case how anaerobic digestion has differed in this case. The heat shock was made in 85 degrees for 1 hour. The pH of reactor adjusted to 5 or 10 was used by hydrochloric acid or sodium hydroxide 1 mole. The supplementation was of selenium was 14.30 milligrams per liter, 42 milligrams per liter, and 72 milligrams. These were some attempts and how it resulted. The pH was measured by pH meter, and water salted spread determined by cuvette test hack technology. The composition was taken by chromatograph, high performance chromatograph with refracted index detector. It shows the difference. The gases were not measured. As we see, in case of selenium, control adding to of if case, because we also say selenium oxide, free tetraoxide, and the same as quateroxide of the same volume, we see that in case of using on 20 days, the selenium trioxide ion oxide were the highest of all the fatty acid production. It was up to 6,000 volatile acid per liter of waste water, and this is especially in pH case of pH 5. In case of pH 5, 10 was, and heat transfer, this was the case that heat transfer and pH 5 give the 6,000. In case of without heat transfer, just pH 5 give, it also was the highest in case of Tatri oxide, and give just also the 5,000 and 200 5,800, so 200 less than in case of heat shock. In case of pH 10, were much better results of water fatty acid production, up to even 8,000 in case 8,300 in case after 10 days was the highest, and also was for trioxide of selenium, while in case on heat shock addition of this case of was also trioxide. However, without addition of any salt, selenium was better, even 10,000 milligrams of fatty acid was 1 liter on wastewater. So this was the best solution in this case if we had a heat shock and the pH of 10. So this shows that but still was higher, just 9,600 was in case of selenium trioxide. So we see that in case of volatile fatty acid, the better is to use basic pH and was to high pH. And this show that for dark fermentation is the best low pH. So if we don't want to use to produce have hydrogen as additional product only for dark fermentation, is simply to change pH to has a basic level of 10, highly basic level. So this shows that some, if we is acceptable for or suitable for the local conditions to have basic pH, the optimal version is to produce volatile fatty acid. The big population was in case of this process, we get 8 acids: acetate, isobutyrate, isovalerate, isocaprate, caprate, valerate, and butyrate propionate. And the highest was, in case the highest pH of acetate, the 60% was for pH 5 and heat shock and selenium tetraoxide. But it was still lower overall than in case of pH. However, in percentage, were higher. So, in case of pH 10, %60 was also obtained, but not 58 was for 10, also, but in selenium trioxide. So better to, if you want acetic acid and a high pH and removal of tetraoxide selenium ions, the better is basic solution. If we want to promote most to use tetraoxide of selenium, we should use pH 5. The other case is in propionate. So for propionate acid, the best was use of 80% in high with no heat transfer at pH 10. So for propionate acid, we don't like. In the case of caprate acid, the best solution was in case after 15 days, in case of 20%, was in case of pH 10 and tetraoxide. So in every case, besides some acetic acid and butyric acid, the better is the solution is to pH 10 and tetraoxide selenium. In case if we will use more reduced tetraoxide, we can use acid. But the research shows that if we want to use and produce the volatile fatty acid, we should better use high pH. It's very important because by now, most finding was that the optimal is optimal for living this bacteria, so low pH. So thank you very much for listening to me.